I was impressed. So simple, so bare, and yet welcoming. It was impressive in its own way. And then another occasion when Barbara, we were walking through the streets, and all of a sudden Barbara turned, and the house was set back a little, so that there was a little, as it were, a little passageway. And as it happened, I was there, and Barbara brushed past me and went into the room, and I was able to see, and there were a number of people in the room, but an old woman, and Barbara went to her and embraced her, and then came out again, and I refer to it in the film, and I say then that it was that the scene was timeless. It could have been any age, any place.
So which village is this? Which
Oh,
village?
Arrangaon.
Arrangaon.
Yeah. Sorry. Yeah. Sorry. We walked from Lower Mayurabad. We were there in the Dooney, where the Dooney is, yeah. And we walked from there with the villagers and the band. And Barbara distributed bananas there, and it was a very loving time, a very loving and lively atmosphere with Barbara in the village. But it's interesting how I can remember Barbara embracing that woman, that old woman. Her heart called out for him. And he responded. Yeah. It was a sort of, again, a largish room, dark, a bit dark. It was set amongst these series of rooms. Yes, it was quite striking. I mean, how those images stay with me. Yeah. And then, of course, there was another occasion where Barbara gave us what I think he called it the last drink, and he took a sip from each cup and gave it to us to drink.
Oh, can you repeat that again? I didn't know that. So you.
Yeah, again, the Westerners were there, and I think it was also the occasion when, yes, that same occasion, we were there with him, and he distributed photographs, which I've got, a lovely photograph of him signed, and underneath is printed, and I'm sure it's Money's printing, "I am the highest of the high." And it gave to each one, and we also had what he would say, it was not the last supper but the last drink. And I'm sorry, I can't even remember what the drink was, but we gave it to each of us, and we were to drink it in his presence.
So he tasted it first?
Yes.
And gave it.
And then gave it.
In one
glass? A glass, just a glass.
So each one will take one sip and distribute around.
Yeah, that's right.
You mean everybody didn't get their own glass?
Oh yes. No. Everyone had a glass.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So each glass he sipped and gave to you?
Yes.
Oh, good.
Yes. Yeah, that's in the book.
Yeah.
You can.
Another thing you never told us about the ping pong competition.
Oh yes, that's right. There was another. You remember I told you that he provided that entertainment,
Yeah.
much to my amazement, a table tennis table or a ping pong table, whichever way you like to put it. And at one time he said, he asked, it must have come up in some way, I've forgotten now how it came up, but he said, tomorrow morning I'll play your best player. So we had a competition, of course. After Barbara departed, we all played each other, and there was great activity trying to decide who was the best player. In the end, it was agreed that the Frenchman, Philippe Dupree, he lived in America. He was French, but he was living in America. That he was the best player. All right. So the next morning, Barbara presents. We go to the table, and Barbara's up the west end, and Philip Dupree was the other, and he served. And Barbara, it was a movement that I can't even describe because it was so swift, so decisive. But that ball hit the far corner of the table. All you could see was it hit and went about 20 feet. It was so fast. It was quite incredible. And so, okay, the ball's retrieved and given back. Philip had no chance to even get anywhere near the ball. And so he serves again, and it was a good serve. I mean, you know, Philip was quite a good player. And again, the movement, Barbara's movement, and the ball shot into that corner, you know, that was that corner and then that corner. Again, right on the corner, you know what I mean? Right on it. And again, about 20 feet. Barbara put the bat down, no contest. No contest. You could see the sort of like, what's the point of playing? Another time, he showed us how to play marbles, Indian fashion. Yeah, but what impressed me, what amazed me was, here was this 60-year-old man, and the way he just immediately squatted down on the ground. I mean, it was not a movement of an elderly man. It was like a youth.
Spring.
Amazing, and he showed us how to shoot it.
So what happened when he shot it?
No, I can't remember. No, I don't. I'm sorry, I don't remember what play was. From my vague memory was that perhaps it's recorded, but my memory is that Barbara hit the centre ball, you know.
Centre goal, marble.
Marble. I'm sure that was it. There was one young man came. He turned out he was the son, Noza, and he played wonderful table tennis. What is it? Finished?
No, it's finished, but I don't know when it's finished. Sometimes I'm completely absorbed in it.
I see. Oh, never mind. We can always go back. You can see what.
Yeah.
Again?
Yeah.
Did you get it all?
Yeah.
Oh.
Only small bit missed, but it's okay.
Which wasn't not important.
Oh no! Look, I think
Yeah.
the marble one I think I missed, but the ping pong one I got.
All right. The one other thing that I forgot to mention, which will further clarify how I was in those days with regard to Barbara, that my belief was so intellectual. We were, as I told you, how Baba had said in the interview that we were to occupy the seclusion cabin. That's a cabin that he was spent periods of seclusion in, next to the tomb shrine, the Samadhi as it's known now. And one day I was sitting there with Lud Dimphel, one of the Americans. He was a few years older than me, but sort of young like myself, mid-30s, and I was 30. And we were sitting, he was sitting on Francis's bed, and I was sitting on mine. I can remember it quite clearly. And we were talking about Baba and following Baba. And Lud was saying, well, all that's necessary is love for him. That's the whole thing. And I said, oh no, I don't agree. I said, you need a firm foundation in the knowledge of the discourses.
That could be the reason why you were told love.
I know, exactly. So you could say that Baba, being aware of that and watching me studiously writing down everything that he said, may have thought, I'll fix this young fella, this lad. Yeah, so that was an interesting. There were so many little things that happened during those 3 weeks. It was, all I can say is that it was such an enriching period, time in my life, and was absolutely the basis of the rest of my life, and I believe, and my lives, because I have, for myself, I just feel that I will be going on, and that I will be with him again when he comes next time.
Talk about Baba walking up towards, in the morning, you watch him walking up, how beautiful. Yes, I didn't mention that, but perhaps I'll read my little description that I wrote of that time. Baba referred to me as a lad, and that was how I felt. Not at all sure how I'd got into this grown-up world. But at the same time I thirsted for it, sat on the rock wall surrounding our living quarters long before he was due in the morning, watching the dusty track, waiting for him to come, to see him striding slowly up the hill effortlessly. Each movement like that of some skilled dancer who forgets himself for a moment and becomes pure movement, not breaking his stride, whilst now and then gathering a stone from the path and throwing it to the side with the same smooth, complete motion. To watch, absorbed, and dwell on his slightest gesture was to see and experience beauty, and awaken my heart in longing to serve him. I never saw a single movement of body, limbs, or facial changes that did not prompt my heart to declare perfection, and my mind to be baffled and say, he could not be other than God. But his movement, all his movements were lovely, were wonderful. The hand gesture, the movement of his hands. And what was so curious too, talking about him and his age, when I say that he was 60, what is curious is that he didn't develop wrinkles. His hands were quite smooth. They weren't like old hands of an old person. Even in 67, it was the same. And also his face.
I kissed him on his birthday in '67 on the cheek, and the cheek was smooth it was like kissing a baby's cheek. It felt so delicate and smooth. It was not wrinkled. Yeah, just curious, interesting. Yeah. So what else was there in?
Final declaration.
Yeah. So okay, perhaps again certain things might come to me, because each day was so rich with things happening, with his presence and little incidents and things that were said. But okay, the last day, the 28th, the day before the meeting, the final declaration. It was called that because Baba gave this talk, which was titled The Final Declaration. The 28th suddenly poured with rain, and it rained all day. The lower part where the Indians were to be domiciled, and the meeting place, it was a quagmire of mud and moisture, and quite amazing. And in the film that was taken, you see something of that rain, and me walking with one of the servants back to the seclusion cabin where we were. I think I was walking barefooted because then I could save my shoes getting